Hello friends, Cam here, once again from the Adventure Game Store in Davie, Florida, the official Nerdstravaganza podcast headquarters. Today, I'm bringing to you a review of Sheriff of Nottingham, one of the hottest games out right now, one of my favorite games right now, and a really fun game to play. Tipping my hand a little bit to my recommendation at the end of the review, but I don't have any issue saying Sheriff of Nottingham is a great game, and let's get into it. So, now we're going to take a look at the general components and gameplay of the game. Here you can see there's a lot of stuff going on. You've got two little nifty trays that come in the box, which I like because they sort of keep things organized. You've got the basic cards. You've got your merchant bags here. You've got your merchant stands here. There's a bunch of different colors: green, red, blue, yellow. There's no special abilities or anything like that. It doesn't really matter what color you are, except unless, of course, you really care what your character looks like. You got a little skinny guy here. You've got a good-looking woman here. You've got a big, brawny bread maker there. So, depending on your preference, that is something you can choose with your friends. You've got these coins here: $50 coins, $20 coins, $5 coins, $1 coins. Everyone starts with 50 gold at the beginning of the game. There are two discard piles, as you can see here, and this is sort of the main deck. Each of the cards look like this. You've got three basic goods. You've got apples, bread, cheese, and chickens. Each one is worth the amount of victory points up in the left-hand corner. And then you've got, these are the legal goods, and then you've got contraband goods, which are denoted by red cards. You've got mead, pepper, silk, and as you can see, they're contraband, so they're worth a little bit more because they're tougher to get through. So you've got, 6, 7, 8. And then these special cards here, denoted by the gold banner here at the bottom, are the royal, they're royal contraband. And they are a lot of times modifiers. They have their own victory points, but they also modify certain things. Like this one counts as 2 bread at the end of the game. So if you get this through past the sheriff, then whatever your total is of bread at the end of the game will end up counting as more. Once we have all the cards dealt out and the basic game set up, we then start our market phase. The market phase starts with the player to the left of the sheriff. So once the sheriff is decided, the player to the left will then go through their initial 6 cards that they've been dealt, and they can decide to discard up to 5 cards. They don't have to discard any cards if they don't want to, but they can discard up to 5. The way they discard those cards is by placing them into either of the discard pile, and they can do them in any way that they like. So first, though, they will say, okay, well, say I wanted to discard 5 cards. I'll put 5 cards face down, then I'll draw 5 cards off the top of the deck, and then I will then return the 5 cards that I discarded into the discard piles like so. I can put them in any order I want. I can put all 5 in one pile, I can put 2 and 3, 4 and 1, whatever I want. At that point then, the next person to the left of that player that just went through his market phase will then do the same thing. And you keep doing that until you get back around to the player who is the sheriff. At that point, you then begin the bag loading phase. Now that we've come to the loading phase, we grab our bag, say I'm the purple player, we open it up, and we decide what we want to load into our bag. At this point, I have 4 bread. I don't know if you can see that from there, but I have 4 bread. Now, when you load your bag, you can only load if you want to have a legal bag, you can only load the same commodity. So I wouldn't be able to load 4 bread and 1 apple and say to the sheriff in the next phase, which is the declaration phase, hey, I've got 4 bread and 1 apple. I could, however, put that apple in with my 4 bread and tell the sheriff that I have 5 bread. But you have to tell him exactly, him or her, I'm sorry, you have to tell the sheriff exactly how many cards you've put into the bag and what those commodities are. So I can't put in 7 cards or 6 cards and say that I only put in 3. So that is a very important aspect of the game. In this instance, I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to go ahead and load my 4 bread into my bag. Once you put those cards into the bag and you snap the snap on the back, that's it. There's no turning back. Once the inspection phase begins, all hell breaks loose. Anyone can do anything at any time. Basically, you can bribe the sheriff. The sheriff can take no bribes. The sheriff can decide to open no bags. The sheriff can open up all bags. Basically, it's a free-for-all. So if I know that I have contraband in my bag, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that the sheriff doesn't open my bag, whether that means bribing him or promising him a favor on a future turn. Whatever it is, I'm going to want to make sure that my contraband gets through. Conversely, if I know that whatever I've declared in the declaration phase is actually in my bag, I may even try to trick the sheriff into opening my bag, because there's a penalty if what I have declared is actually in my bag and the sheriff opens the bag. So, for instance, I say there's 4 cheese in my bag. The sheriff doesn't believe me. He opens my bag and he pulls out 4 cheese. Well, then he's going to end up having to pay me 2 coins per amount of cheese that's in my bag. So I would be getting 8 coins from the sheriff in terms of a penalty. Now, if I would have said 4 cheese, but instead I had 3 contraband in my bag like this, then I would have to pay the sheriff 4, 4, and 4, 12 coins, because I got called on my bluff. So, as you can see, bluffing, dealing, bribing, it all comes into play, and it's all very important in this game. What is the end game? Of course, it's victory points. So as we discussed earlier, victory points are denoted at the top of the card. You can only declare 1 commodity per declaration phase. So I couldn't say I've got 1 cheese, 1 chicken, 1 apple, and 1 bread. I would have to say I have 3 chickens, 3 apples, 4 bread, whatever it is. At that point, whatever gets through whatever gets through on the inspection phase then gets counted up, and you move forward. They've got these nice little cards here that help you keep track of what you got. So your bread would go, your cheese would go here, your roosters go here, your apples go here, and your bread goes here. So then at the end of the game, you know exactly what you have, but each round it's scored. So once you get these through, so say on one round I got 1 bread through, I'd get 3 coins for that round, and that would go into my pile. Now, if you notice here, I don't know if you can see it, but if you look closely at the card, there are numbers next to each of the commodities. That denotes at the end of the game extra points that a player will get if they have the most of that commodity. So if you have the most bread at the end of the game that you got through during the inspection phase, you will get 15 extra victory points. If you have the second most bread, you get 10. So it's important to sort of keep an eye on what your neighbors are doing. But as I said, it might not be exactly what it looks like, because they may have one of these cards that we discussed earlier that is a modifier or a multiplier on one of the commodities that they have. Like if they have a couple of these contrabands that make bread count as more, then even though they may have less bread showing, they may have indeed more bread than you at the end of the game. So the game ends when all the players have been the sheriff twice. So once the last player is the sheriff for the second time, the game is over. You count up your coins, those are your victory points, then you count up your contraband. One important thing to note is that when your contraband does get through, it doesn't get placed here around your cards like the legal commodities do. They get placed face down, either in front of or behind your card like this. So basically, the players can look and see what you have in terms of coins and in terms of commodities that are facing them, but they don't know what contraband you've got through. They only will know how many pieces of contraband you got through. So that is a very important variable to the game that you need to keep track of. So like I said, at the end of the game, you count up your coins, you count up the extra bonus points, and then you count up your contraband, and the person with the most victory points is the winner. In a nutshell, that is Sheriff of Nottingham. Now that we've gone through the components, the general gameplay, the end game, and all the phases, let's talk about some gripes that I have about the game. One, while these trays are pretty good in terms of organizing things, they're really flimsy. They're really thin plastic, and I can see them getting beat up pretty quickly and pretty easily. The finish on the cards could be a little bit better. These are just basically pieces of cardboard that are sort of slapped together, as is the sheriff token. The bags are very cheap felt with sort of an iron-on sticker, and these snaps, I mean, especially for how many times you're going to have to open up and close this bag, I can see these snaps just wearing out really, really quickly. The the actual tokens for the coins are cardboard. I'm a huge hater of the cardboard tokens when it comes to coins. I don't see why you can't just slap together some plastic coins or something that will hold up better over time. Not only that, they're not even centered correctly. If you really look at the coins, they're cut terribly. Another gripe that I had was that there's a promo that is supposed to come with the cards. It's it here. I don't know if you can really see it in the camera. It's the Royal Summons promo. I ended up getting my hands on a copy of it from the Adventure Game Store because they are the sponsors of the Nerdstravaganza podcast. However, I know that several of my friends who purchased the game from other outlets never got this card. They were shipped separately from the game, and they ended up not getting their promo. And then some of those game stores actually ended up putting the promos on eBay, which is a pretty dick move. So those are my general gripes with the game. Will they stop me from playing the game? Of course not. Would they stop me from recommending the game to you? Definitely not. It's a great game in terms of mechanics and in terms of fun and gameplay. I'd say it's great. It's just not going to hold up very well. So maybe buy 2 copies from your local game store so that you can have one that you can beat up and the other you can have on your shelf. So that was Sheriff of Nottingham. I hope you enjoyed the review. I enjoyed doing it. Like I said, this is a great game. It's one of the hottest games out there. It is a very family-friendly game. It is a game that you can play with your buddies, you can play with coworkers, you can play with anyone under the sun and have a great time. I'm not saying there's still going to be family or friends after you play the game because there is a lot of shenanigans that are going to go on while you play. But I think it's worth the effort. So Sheriff of Nottingham, if you don't have it, go out and get it. It is Nerdstravaganza approved.
Thank you, fans, for joining us for another Nerdstravaganza Reviews. If you'd like more Ganza goodness, why not subscribe to our channel? Visit our homepage, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook.